I see. I live with my mom, and then I have two siblings. So I think it was just kind of everyday struggles with just being like in a single parent home, and just kind of learning how to deal with the world and how things work in that perspective. And I think it just helped me. It just helped me grow and become more resilient to things, and become just a smarter person and more understanding of people. And I think it's helped me along the way to become more of a people person and helped me get here to this place, Freddie Mac. So, shouts out to every mom out there.
So coming to this country, I went to Michigan, Go Blue, for college. And my biggest challenge was I joined in January. So I came from Karachi, where the weather was about 70 degrees when I was leaving, and when I landed in Michigan, it was 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And just dealing with the cold, my first semester, in fact, my first few years, was a big challenge for me.
Different thing I experience is the cultural. It's hard to figure out a way to communicate with people here like very naturally and express my thoughts without being afraid of offending anyone. Um, because in China we express. I'm familiar with the culture, so I express things very explicitly, and people know what I mean, and then some actions and some words they don't take offended. But because I don't know the culture here, so it's it's a little difficult. It's a little difficult to really know what people think.
I would say coming here to the States, that was very exciting, but I did not know much of the system. The way that families work and the time that people take for anything that is not related to a professional life is different than what we do in Peru. In any afternoon, I would like to see a friend. I would just come by to their house, knock on the door, and visit them. And here I learned to plan a visit. It was not as, it is still now not as easy to get together with people. Like days go so fast here. I don't even know how to explain it, but time goes faster here in the States.
So I think the biggest challenge was I'm first generation. I was born and raised here. My parents immigrated here. So I didn't completely fit with their community, their friends. At the same time, because my parents immigrated here and I had a connection to the community, I also didn't feel like I fit in with some of my friends growing up in elementary school, middle school, and high school. So I was sort of in the middle of both my culture that my family came from as well as the culture here.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest challenges growing up was again being the firstborn here. My parents were clearly not native speakers, and as they started to join the workforce, they actually relied a lot on my brother and myself to help them with the language and help them with English, for example. So one thing I remember very clearly is my parents would come home from work, and they would speak to us in Hindi, and they would require us, kind of different probably than most other immigrants, and they'd require us to speak back to them in English. And a lot of it was really so they could learn English. And so I remember very clearly my parents would come home, and they'd come home with almost written notes, and it was saying, my boss or somebody said this to me. What does this mean? And as a child, you don't really realize, and this is young age, 5, 6 years old, you don't know either, right? But really what you're doing is you're teaching your parents sort of how to speak the lingo. It's one thing to learn it in a classroom. It's another thing to be doing it every day in practice. So that was a pretty unique experience for me. And so even today, I've been trained by my mom and dad that they speak to me in Hindi and I reply back in English. Pros and cons associated with that, but that's sort of my unique experience.